Bonjour et bienvenue à la grammaire du chapitre 1 de Horizon 6e édition. So, some students have requested a grammar video to explain the grammar. In chapitre 1, we're going to start here on page 34, à la page 34, with adjective agreements and the use of c'est versus il est. The adjective agreement is probably the biggest concept you learn in French 101. And it's really not a natural thing to learn for English speakers because it doesn't exist in English. So for example, in English you say, my brother is small, my car is small, my children are small, my daughters are small. The word small is always small in English. It doesn't agree or it doesn't vary depending on what you're describing, depending on what is small. But in French it does. As you can see, petit, meaning small, has 4 different forms in French. If you're going to describe a masculine singular object or one man, you use petit. Il est petit can be the computer is small, or il est petit could be he is small, talking about a person. Ils sont petits, they are small. You can be talking about a group of masculine objects or a group of men, or a whole group of women with one man in it. So in French, the masculine always wins over. So if you have a whole group of feminine objects and one masculine object, you're going to be using the masculine plural form. Same thing with a group of all women and one man in it, you're going to be using the masculine plural form. And here, elle est petite, one feminine object or one lady, one feminine person. And plural, elles sont petites, could be describing a group of feminine objects. For example, a whole group of cars in a parking lot that are all small, you can say elles sont petites, or a group of ladies, a group of daughters or children who are girls, elles sont petites. So listen to the pronunciation. Il est petit, ils sont petits, elle est petite, elles sont petites. There's only really 2 forms that you're hearing. You're hearing petit, masculine singular, masculine plural, and petite for feminine singular, feminine plural. And that's because you don't pronounce final consonants in words in French. So petit, you don't hear the final T. Petit, you don't hear the final T and S. Petite, adding an E at the end, adding a vowel, makes you pronounce the final TE. And elles sont petites, feminine plural, that what you pronounce is the final TE. You don't pronounce the final, very final S, because it's also a consonant. So let's see for jeune. Jeune means young. Il est jeune, ils sont jeunes, elle est jeune, elles sont jeunes. You see that you have here 2 different ways of writing it, but only one way of pronouncing it. So you don't hear the final S because it's a final consonant. The reason why you're not adding an extra E in feminine singular is because it already has an E in the masculine singular. There are a few adjectives that are like that. They come with an E in a masculine singular. So you're only adding an S to make it plural. You don't change it in feminine singular, and you're also adding it in S in feminine plural form. Marié, the next one down, means married. Il est marié, ils sont mariés, elle est mariée, elles sont mariées. So here you can really only hear one form, even though you're writing 4 different forms. One note here is you're talking about a couple and you want to say they are married, you're going to be using the masculine plural form, marié, with AS at the end, because there's one man, one woman, so you're using the masculine plural form. Français means French, just like anglais means English. Those 2 end with an S already. So in the plural form, you're not going to add an extra S, you just leave it like that. To make it feminine singular, you add an E. To make it feminine plural, you add an ES at the end. And in the pronunciation, that means il est français, ils sont français, elle est française, elles sont françaises. So it's like the petit all the way on the top. You are hearing 2 pronunciations, one for the masculine, one for the feminine. Gros and a couple of the other adjectives are going to be doubling up final consonants before adding an E to make them feminine. Gros means big. Il est gros, ils sont gros. You see in the plural you're not adding an S, it's just like français here above. To make it feminine, though, you're going to be doubling up the S and adding an E. Feminine singular and feminine plural is the same thing. Double up the S, add an E, plus add a final S to make it plural. So, il est gros, ils sont gros, elle est grosse, elles sont grosses. Okay? You're only hearing two forms, but you're writing three different forms. Canadien and all adjectives ending in I-E-N are going to also double up the N and add an E to make them feminine. Il est canadien, ils sont canadiens, elle est canadienne, elles sont canadiennes. So here you're listening to two forms, canadien for masculine and canadienne for feminine. Let's go down to beau, jumeau, et vieux. I will scroll down a little further to have the whole page. Okay, beau, which means beautiful, jumeau, which means twin, and vieux, which means old, are completely irregular all the way through. You just need to learn those by heart. Let's go through them. Beau, il est beau, ils sont beaux, elle est belle, elles sont belles. So you see the X is a final consonant, so you don't hear it. You have to write it down, but it doesn't change the pronunciation. Il est jumeau, ils sont jumeaux, elle est jumelle, elles sont jumelles. Here you're hearing only two pronunciations for four different words, and X at the end of jumeau, you don't hear that. Or you don't hear the S at the end of jumelle in the feminine plural form either, because the final S is not pronounced. Vieux means old, il est vieux, ils sont vieux, elle est vieille, elles sont vieilles. Here you're hearing two forms and you're writing down three different forms. That means old, okay? Now the use of c'est versus il est. You're going to be using c'est with an article and a noun, or c'est plus a first name. And you're using that when the question is, what is it? So if you have a question, let's see, I'm gonna make that smaller so I can type here for you. If the question is, qu'est-ce que c'est? Qu'est-ce que c'est? That means, what is it? Your answer is going to be about an object. So you can say, c'est une voiture, for example, it's a car. You can also say, if you have several objects, you can say, ce sont des voitures. These are cars, or that's cars, okay? If you're asking the question, qui est? Qui est? That means, who is it? You can say, c'est Jean, for example. It's Jean. So, c'est can be followed by an article and then a noun in the singular form, or ce sont is in the plural, followed by an article and a plural noun, or c'est with the first name. So, who is this? Who is it? It's Jean. Or what is it? It's a car, or it's some cars. Those are some cars, okay? Versus il est. So, if you ask a question, comment est-il? Means, how is he? How is he physically? Or how is the masculine object? So the computer, or the desk, or the piano, or any other masculine object. How is he? So you're getting a piano delivered to your house, and you want to know, how is it? Or how is the piano? You will ask, comment est-il? You can say, il est grand. Il est noir. Il est lourd. Lourd means heavy, okay? So you have il est plus the adjective following. So of course it's an adjective, so you don't need an article in between, okay? If you want to say comment sont-ils, meaning how are they, you can answer with ils sont grands, ils sont noirs. If you're getting two pianos delivered, they're both big, they're both black, they're both heavy. Ils sont lourds. Okay? So you're making all your adjectives feminine and you use ils sont, the plural form, instead of il est. Okay? I hope that makes sense. You, in the example here, they use célibataire, so il est célibataire. Oh, pardon, célibataire. Il est célibataire means he is single, so you're using il est with adjectives and c'est with an article and a noun. Okay? If you want to make this negative, so what it is not, you want to say, oh, he is not single. Il est célibataire means he is single. If you want to say he is not single, is il n'est pas célibataire. So you're using the ne, and then the verb, and then you pas. And that differs from English too, because it means he isn't. In English, it's just one form. He is not. Okay? Here you have the ne and the pas. And in the middle, you have est. Il est. Since your ne ends with an e and est starts with an e, you're going to have to take out the e in e, take it out and put an apostrophe. And that becomes il n'est pas. He is not single. Okay? So place the ne before the verb and the pas after it, and that becomes the ne becomes an apostrophe when the verb starts with the vowel. Okay? So I'm going to now skip to another page, page 40. I'm hoping it's gonna let me. Yay, works today. And it should make the font bigger. Yes. Okay. So this is for the conjugation of the verb être. Être is to be. To be or not to be, that is the question. In French, that's translated into être ou ne pas être. C'est la question. Okay? Je suis is I am. Tu es, you are. Il est, he is. Elle est, she is. Or a feminine object is. Nous sommes, we are. Vous êtes, you are. When you're using the vous, you're talking about a group of people, or you're addressing one person in a respectful form. So tu is informal, vous is formal, respectful form. Can be used for formally addressing a group or formally addressing just one person. Or informally for a group as well. That's vous. Ils sont, they are. Elles sont, they are, in a feminine form. Okay? We just talked about how to make the negation with the c'est and ce n'est pas, or il est, il n'est pas. Here is with the verb travailler. Je ne travaille pas means I don't work. So you put the ne before the verb travailler and the pas after. When you are having a verb starting with a vowel or an H, you're going to cut out the E. Je n'habite pas means I don't live. So je n'habite pas au Brésil, for example. I don't live in Brazil. Je n'aime pas, I don't like. Je ne suis pas, I am not. Tu n'es pas, you're not. Il n'est pas, he is not. Nous ne sommes pas, we are not. Vous n'êtes pas, you guys are not, or you are not, addressing one person respectfully. Ils ne sont pas, they are not. This is for the verb être and the être in a negative form. They're also adding a few more adjectives here for you, because it's impossible to learn them all at once. It would just be too much. So here are a couple of those common adjective endings, common patterns that you can apply to other adjectives as you learn them. All adjectives in EUX, as pronounced E, will make their feminine in EUSE, euse. Let's read together. Paresseux means lazy. Paresseux, paresseux, paresseuse, paresseuse. So you only hear two forms and you're writing three different forms, because masculine singular, masculine plural is the same. Remember, if you already have an S or an X in the masculine singular form, don't change it to masculine plural, just stays that way. Canadien, we already talked about that before, ending in IN or EIN. Sorry, EN or IEN becomes ENNE, so don't forget to double up the N. Il est canadien, ils sont canadiens, elle est canadienne, elles sont canadiennes. Adjectives ending in IF will become IVE, like sportif. Sportif is sporty, or a person healthy, fit, a person who does a lot of sports. Il est sportif, ils sont sportifs, elle est sportive, elles sont sportives. Adjectives ending in EL will make it ELLE in the feminine form, comme intellectuel, meaning somebody who is smart, intellectual. intellectuel, ils sont intellectuels, pardon. Elle est intellectuelle, elles sont intellectuelles. Here you're really only hearing one form, but you do have 4 different spellings. Adjectives ending in ER, the letters ER combined make the sound E. E changes into feminine into R. E, accent grave, R-E. So, premier means first. Il est premier, ils sont premiers. Elle est première, elles sont premières. You're only hearing 2 different pronunciations and you have 4 different spellings. Gentil is another adjective like canadien and gros that doubles up the L to make it gentille. Il est gentil, elle est gentille. And that means kind. The adjectives beau, nouveau, jumeau, et vieux are irregular. They follow a similar pattern. So we did go over those. Not quite. Beau, jumeau, et vieux. You did go over those on page 34. But not nouveau. So nouveau means new. It's actually new on page 40. So il est nouveau, ils sont nouveaux, elle est nouvelle, elles sont nouvelles. You have 2 different pronunciations and here 4 different spellings. Okay? I want now to skip to page 46 to help you out with the gender indefinite articles and the expression il y a. Il y a means there is and there are. So in English you have 2 different ways to say this. There is a car, or there are 2 cars. In French, for once it's simpler in French than it is in English. We're using il y a to say there is and there are. Okay? To say there is not or there are not, use il n'y a pas de. So, if you want to say what objects are there in the classrooms, you can say what is there? Qu'est-ce qu'il y a dans la classe? Okay? What is there in a classroom? Your answer, if you see il y a in a question, start your answer with il y a. Il y a means there is or there are. Il y a une chaise. Il y a un bureau. Il y a des étudiants. Okay? So whether you're talking about one thing, une chaise, or several things or people, like des étudiants, some students, you can start the sentence with il y a. Okay? If the classroom is empty and there are no students in there, you can say il n'y a pas d'étudiants. There are no students. So you see that you have your ne in front of the y, and because it's followed by a y, which is considered a vowel in French, you're gonna have to take out the e and put an apostrophe. Ni, a, and then you have your pas. And so in the positive form, there are some, you use des, it becomes pas de. It means not any. There are not any students. Watch what happens here. Étudiant starts with a vowel, so you're going to have to drop the e in pas de and put an apostrophe. And that becomes, the whole sentence becomes, il n'y a pas d'étudiants. Okay? Just to say there are no students. D'accord? What else is on this page? The articles un, une, et des. It's called the indefinite article because it corresponds to a or some for objects in English. We'll learn later on in this chapter the definite articles that correspond to the, when you're talking those or the specific pieces of papers on your desk, for example. So the indefinite article, masculine, is un. When you're talking about a theater, for example, un théâtre. The feminine is une bibliothèque. A library is feminine, a theater is masculine. Don't ask me why, that's just how it is. So in French, when you're learning new words, you have to learn them with their gender, with the article un and une, or as we see later, with the article la le or la. Some students find it easier to buy flashcards in two different colors. For example, blue flashcards for masculine nouns, and they write all the feminine nouns on pink flashcards, or red flashcards, all the verbs on yellow flashcards. Or some students like to color code it to memorize the gender of nouns. You can use the Quizlet app to write flashcards as well, and you will be able to click on the audio icon. It'll pronounce the words for you in French. And I believe you can customize the background color of your flashcards in Quizlet, so that should help you to memorize the gender of nouns. In the plural form though, both article forms are des. So un théâtre is a theater, des théâtres is some theaters. If you want to say, for example, there are some theaters in Las Vegas, you say il y a des théâtres à Las Vegas. Une bibliothèque becomes des bibliothèques. Let's pretend there are no libraries in Las Vegas. I have no idea, I've never been to Las Vegas, but then you would be saying il n'y a pas de bibliothèque à Las Vegas. Just like we say il n'y a pas d'étudiants, it would be il n'y a pas de bibliothèque. And since bibliothèque starts with a B, which is a consonant, you make sure you keep your de in here. You don't put the apostrophe. Okay? Let's keep scrolling down to see what else we have here for you. Okay. Most nouns in French are made plural into adding just an S. That's the standard way, like in English. If you have one car, when you have several cars, it's two cars. You just add an S. However, there are a few exceptions to that in French, where you're going to be adding an X or a Z. So, bureau is a desk, and like every noun that ends in with I, E, U, you're going to be putting an X to make it plural. Okay. Here they're giving you a note of when the un, une, and des change into de, or the apostrophe in those cases. So, after most negated verbs, il y a un stade means there is a stadium. Il n'y a pas de stade, there is no stadium. Il y a une résidence, there is a residence. Il n'y a pas de résidence, there is no residence. Écrivez des phrases complètes, that means write complete sentences. N'écrivez pas de phrases complètes, that means don't write complete sentences. Il y a des étudiants dans la classe, there are some students in the class. Il n'y a pas d'étudiants dans la classe, there are no students in the class. La classe can also mean the classroom, as in just the physical area. But not after the verb être. C'est un bon restaurant becomes ce n'est pas un bon restaurant. So after the verb être, instead of changing the un, une, and des into pas de, you're gonna keep pas un, pas une, ou pas deux, ou pas des for the plural, des. Okay? After expressions of quality, like assez, meaning enough, beaucoup, a lot, combien, how many, il y a un parking, there is one, or a parking lot. Il y a assez de parking, there are enough parking lots. Il y a une bibliothèque, there is one library. Oui, il y a beaucoup de bibliothèques, there are a lot of libraries. Il y a des cinémas, there are movie theaters. Il y a combien de cinémas? There are how many movie theaters? And right before a plural adjective, so il y a des bâtiments modernes. If you're this is not a good example. Moderne is a normal adjective in French, so it comes after the noun, which is bâtiment. Joli is an adjective that describes the beauty, and it's a short one, so it comes before bâtiment. And in this case, you change your des into de. Il y a deux jolis bâtiments. This is not for now. We're going to see the placement of adjectives later on. This is not for this chapter. I'm going to skip to, I was going to help you with one or two more quick grammar points here. Page 48, just 2 pages later. identifying people and things, so c'est où il est et la place de l'adjectif. They just touch on the where you put the adjective here. This is not the complete explanation of adjective positioning. So you use il or elle to say he or she or it, et il ou elle in the plural form to say they. They referring to feminine objects or a group of women, depending on the gender of the noun that you're talking about. So that means whether the object is masculine or feminine. So look at this for an example. Le campus, il est beau. So university campus is masculine. Then when you're talking about the campus, like when we talked about the piano earlier, you say il. Les parkings, ils sont petits. So les is the plural form of le. We're gonna see, well, let me go there and I'll come back to this. Le l'aller is on page 52, and then we'll come back to page 48. Those two pages should have been in reversed order in the book, I think. So l'article définit. We just learned un, une, des, meaning un, une, des. Un is masculine singular, meaning a. Une is feminine singular, also means a. Et des is plural. It works for masculine and feminine plural. It means some. Okay? Now we're going to learn le, which means the, la, which also means the, and les, which is the feminine form, which means the as well. So you have the indefinite on the top row, the definite on the bottom row. And indefinite just is a matter of precision. So what you're talking about. If you're pointing at something that you see, you're using the definite article. You're talking about these precise things. So let's read the examples down here below. To specify items as when using the in English. Apprenez les mots de vocabulaire. Learn the vocabulary words. You know it's those specific ones, so you use the les instead of des. If you had said apprenez des mots de vocabulaire, it would be learn some vocab words without making it precise to say which ones. When you're liking, disliking, or preferring something in a statement, you're going to use les. To say in general, I don't like homework in general. You can see here in English, I don't like homework. Doesn't require an article, but in French you have to say je n'aime pas les devoirs. Okay? And also to talk about something as a general category or an abstract noun, in English you'll say languages are easy for me. You don't have to say the languages are easy for me. In fact, it would sound strange in English. But in French you have to start with les. Les langues sont faciles pour moi. Okay? And on top of that, languages is a school subject, and all the school subjects in French take an article. So if we go back out there to page 48 now, with c'est, il est, now we are using the definite articles, and since we went over them, you know what they mean now. Les parkings, ils sont petits. The parking lots, they are small. You use the il to refer to les parkings because it's masculine plural. La bibliothèque, the library, elle est jolie because you're referring to a feminine noun. Les résidences, elles sont très vieilles. So when you're seeing les, you don't know if the word is masculine or feminine. You can only tell it's plural. So you have to know from looking it up in a dictionary or learning it by heart if it's masculine or feminine, so you know if you choose il or elle to refer to it. So c'est, as well as il est, elle est, can mean he is, she is, or it is in English. And ce sont, as well as ils sont, elles sont, can mean they are. So the expressions are not interchangeable. In French, you're set to use one or the other. And in English, it may not always translate exactly like it is stated in French. So to illustrate the lack of correspondence sometimes in the translation, let's read these sentences. C'est David. It's David. C'est un jeune homme sympathique. So in French we say c'est. You have to put c'est because you have the article un, and then jeune homme is a young man. He's a nice young man. In English, you'd have to say, he is a nice young man. You could not say, it is a nice young man. You have to say he. But in French, you have c'est, because you have your article un, and then jeune homme. If you had il est, that il est has to be followed directly by the adjective. C'est mon ami, it's my friend. C'est le frère de Jean, it's Jean's brother. Il est et elle est, et ils sont et elles sont in a plural form, have to be followed by adjectives to describe somebody or something. Il est petit et sympathique. He is small and nice. With prepositional phrases to say things like somewhere or someone or somewhere is from. Il est de Nice. He is from Nice. Yeah, that has nothing to do with nice. I had that question once from a student. So Nice is a city in southern France on the Mediterranean coast. It's a touristic city with a lot of beaches. Il est de Nice. Il est en cours, meaning he is in a class right now. Je suis en cours means I'm in a class. So it can be used to say where you're from and where you're at right now. With nationalities and professions, as well as being a student, il est français, he is French. Il est étudiant, he is a student. Notice that here in English you would say he is a student. In French, you don't have an article before professions. It's just il est or elle est in the profession right away with nothing in between. Il est catholique, he is Catholic with a religion, so you use il est, elle est. They do have a small bit here about the placement of adjectives. So in French, most adjectives are placed after the noun they described, which is completely different from English. So you would say in English, a modern campus. In French, we say un campus moderne. The moderne comes after campus. Une boîte de nuit populaire is a popular nightclub, and your popular comes after the nightclub in French. Is a nightclub popular? Des amis sympas, some nice friends or kind friends. You would say you have to put nice or kind before friends in English, but as most adjectives do in French, sympa comes after ami. So des amis sympas. There are 15 common adjectives that are placed before the noun. Most times students learn that there are adjectives of beauty, age, goodness, and size. Often it seems that the high school teach it that way. So adjectives that describe beauty, age, goodness, and size, and that are quite short adjectives, come before the noun. Here they say there are 15 of them. I want to say there are more than 15, but for right now just learn the 15. So adjectives of beauty can be beau and joli, for example. Those describe somebody's beauty. So you would say un bel homme, a beautiful man. Okay, I picked a complicated one. It's B-E-L. It should be un beau homme. But since you have starting with a vowel because the H doesn't count in French, then beau is going to be changed into belle for pronunciation's sake. So un bel homme, un joli manteau, a pretty coat, for example. Joli will come before the noun. So age, you have jeune, vieux, nouveau. Those are considered adjectives of age and they're short and they will come before the noun. So un jeune homme. Jeune homme. A young man. Your jeune will be before homme. Adjectives of goodness like bon, mauvais, gentil. Bon is good, mauvais is bad, et gentil is kind. Will come before the noun. Un gentil garçon. A kind boy, for example. Un gentil will come before. And size, let's say grand, petit, gros. That describes the size. You want to say un petit garçon? A little boy? The petit will come before garçon, okay? Those are adjective bags, adjective as they're called here usually in high school, beauty, age, goodness, and size adjectives that are short. Those will come before the noun. Here they also added autre, même, seul, et premier. So just remember those come before the noun, like in un joli campus, une grande boîte de nuit, et de bons amis. Okay? The little note here with beau, nouveau, and vieux is what I just ran into with un bel homme. You have to make it bel because homme starts with the vowel since the H is not pronounced. So, un beau quartier, masculine, with a word that starts with a Q, which is a consonant. Un bel ami. If your masculine word starts with the vowel, you change it into belle. And it's different from in a feminine form, which will be une belle amie, B-E-L-L-E. The same goes for nouveau, un nouveau quartier. When the word starts with the vowel, you would change it to un nouvel ami, a masculine word starting with the vowel. And your feminine form is still nouvelle with E-L-L-E at the end. Un vieux quartier is an old neighborhood. Un vieil ami is an old friend. Ami starting with the vowel, you have to change vieux into vieille. But it's different from the feminine form, which is vieille, V-I-E-I-L-L-E. E-L-L-E at the end, making it feminine. Okay? This is all the grammar I'm going to explain. That's all you have in Chapitre 1. I hope this video was useful, and let me know if you need more of them for the upcoming chapters. The videos that are in the Horizon textbook in your ebook should be also very helpful. And I wish you good luck for everything. Merci. Au revoir.